I'm very excited to hear about your journey because Cece and we've been talking for about a year, and she mentioned that a big part of your experience has been about depersonalization and modern non-duality.
Yeah.
So that's a topic very near and dear to me. And if you're open to it, just start wherever you want to start. Totally, totally up to you.
Okay. Maybe I should start when DP started, and that was in April 1996. It's a long
Wild.
time. It's a really long time, and I have suffer from DP every second since then, and
Every second.
every second, except in my dreams.
Wow.
I think it was a hard time back then in April. My father suffered from lung cancer, and my school time came to an end. And is it the right word in English? Tinnitus? Do you know the?
Yeah, the ear
Okay,
sound thing.
can yeah, and it all came together in April, and I think it was way too much, way too much. So my psyche said, "Okay, it's enough. Stop it. I have to go away." And so the DP started. I was just standing in my room, listening to music and drinking some water, and suddenly I had a strong panic, and I felt like the walls come nearer and nearer, and I had to go out and smoke a cigarette and try to calm down. But then I came back in, and from that moment on, I thought, "Where am I? What is this strange thing?" And my perception went through the ceiling, and I thought, "Where am I? What am I?
Mhm.
What is it?" And I tried to uh, find words for it, and and I had the fear of yeah, being psychotic, to lose my mind, and it took a long time to cope with it and accept it as something that's there, and I have to live with it.
Mhm.
Um, so, and I think I almost lived 10 years with it. And then in 2006, my ex-wife um, went to a spiritual teacher named Maduka,
Okay.
and she said to me, "Hey, you have to go to him, listen to him. He's great." So I went to a satsang, and yeah, I listened to him. I had the possibility to sit right in front of him in the middle of the room. And
Mm.
I told him about my story, my DP, and how I felt about it, and that my psychotherapy didn't work for me. My first psychotherapy that I had from 1997 to 1999. And I asked the typical questions: who sees it? Who is it that feels that? Etc.
Mhm.
And then he said to me, "You are," and I don't know if it's the right word in English, "you are in half sleep,
Mm.
but you cannot fall into deep sleep again." And that flashed me, and I thought, "Wow, I have to search. I have to go deeper and to do the self inquiry. Ask myself every day, every second, who am I? What am I?"
Mhm.
Um, so I never went to any satsang or retreat again. But I read a lot of
Mhm.
books and did my self inquiry every day in my head. There was satsang in my head every day from that moment
Mhm.
on. And I had a second psychotherapy from 2008 to 2012, and ah, this therapist had a strong feeling towards spirituality, and he asked me if I would know the book Collision with the Infinite from Suzanne Siegel.
Mhm. Suzanne Siegel.
and he liked it a lot. And of course, I knew the book. I think it took similar to Suzanne. It took 10 to 12 years in DP till I had my experience of oneness. And but I think the problem is similar to Suzanne. I tried to find a solution, healing in spirituality.
Sure.
And I read a lot, and all these words got into my brain and formed some kind of pattern that could be used when I tried a special practice to find myself, so that it was possible to for my brain to construct this experience. For Suzanne, it lasted 2 years, but then the anxiety came back to her, and
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
and so in the end, she thought that everything she thought before was just an error. That was just fault. It was not
Was
correct.
an error?
Yeah,
You mean the spiritual
yeah,
framework for it?
yeah.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people
Okay.
don't know this story, how the story ends. They just know
Yep.
that Suzanne died from brain cancer, but they don't know that she returned to life with all her fears, etc.
You mean that she was no longer having it as a mystical type of experience?
Yeah,
Okay. And so there was like a, what do you call it? Oh, not a regression. Anyways, I guess the kind of dysfunctional harrowing type of depersonalization came back, and then she questioned whether this was really some pointing to some spiritual truth that was comforting.
exactly. She questioned everything in that sense, everything. But then, unfortunately, she died so soon.
Yeah.
So
So sad.
nobody has the possibility to hear what she would have said about it.
Right.
It's gone.
Right.
It's gone. That's sad.
Would you say that sorry, please.
It's okay. It's okay.
I was just wondering because I don't remember now the full context of it, but would you say that the book or the way that a lot of folks in Eastern spiritual or non-dual communities kind of look to her story as um, maybe a success story?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that it's some kind of awakening Bible. I actually made a
Uh,
video about it where I
okay.
analyzed this faulty thinking. It's just illusion.
What is just illusion?
That it's a story of success, of awakening.
Oh, Suzanne,
Mm.
Suzanne. Yeah.
But a
Yep.
lot of people think that it's some kind of awakening Bible and treat it like that. Um, it's interesting. My second psychotherapist said something similar to me. He always talked about my point of consciousness where I could set back myself and escape to.
You did something like this, like kind of falling back into.
Yeah, sure. Um, he said that there would be some kind of I explained to him how I feel and how it is to be in this kind of feeling that I lose myself, that I don't know what I am and where I am, and he tried to tell me that it's not the problem, and that could always, if I have fear, that I could always just rely on that point of consciousness that I am
Mm.
simply without being a person, etc. And that didn't help me. I think it would have been necessary to stabilize me as a person,
First,
not as some kind of not grabbable consciousness.
yeah, to push you further into,
Yes,
uh, or further pull the rug out from under your sense of reality. Could I read you something quickly? I would like to see, if you feel like this to relates to you. Here we go. So, it's very hard to find quotes talking about this topic, and I came across this yoga teacher named Timothy Bergen. And he, I think, in his yoga practice would sometimes teach self inquiry. And when you say self inquiry, do you mean like Ramana Maharshi
Mhm.
contemplating who am I? So he said self inquiry would be contraindicated for anyone with mental disease or emotional instability. And then somebody wrote in the discussion, like, why would you try to keep this from people when it's just, it's just reality and it can help them? And he said, encouraging them to experience other realms of reality would be destabilizing and most likely make their condition worse, when what they need is to solidify their reality and or emotions and diminish their experience with fluctuating states of reality. And that just really hit home for me. That was like, wow, why is this being given out to the general public for a panacea for any kind of problems, and especially for these really serious people who are in really vulnerable, you know, uh, disorienting states as the solution to that, right? And so I fully resonate with how troubling it can be when this is the medicine that's tried to be given, rather than this person needs to be stabilized and grounded before we do further sort of ungrounding types of pointers and things like that.
Yeah, it should always be done like that, and that's something CC and me are fighting for. We just want to say that it's okay if you want to be a spiritual searcher and want to be a spiritual teacher. It's okay. It's okay to feel like that. If you think you are the void, the oneness, it's okay, and not talk about it as if it was the ultimate truth. I think it's something you experience individually, and it's okay if you do that. If you're happy with it, it's okay. But
Right.
before you talk about it, just have some kind of trigger warning.
Some kind of warning, yes. And would you say that uh what's the word I was going to use? For me, and this is something I contemplate a lot more so lately, is a lot of my concern with these sort of ego death, ego dissolution, decontextualized like Eastern uh, self dissolution pointers and practices and paths, that it's not that I'm, against the fact that they exist. And I respect and honor the fact that that's what some people choose, that's some people's tradition, that these are things that, by all means, if that's what you want to do that. But I do have great concerns over all of that being decontextualized and then distributed to the masses in an indiscriminate way. If that wasn't happening, if they weren't being disseminated in an indiscriminate way, there would be a fraction of the problem. What we're seeing is so many people now in the West that are just casually being guided to obliterate their sense of self, and then ending up in really with a lot of really harmful consequences. And I think you and I know at this point that it's all the way up to things like suicide. That's not actually that uncommon. Um, so yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, that we're not like nobody should do this or nobody should teach it, but there has to be much greater caution. And then I was also going to say it feels important that uh, if there is a spiritual guide who's doing this stuff, that there be much greater consideration of the importance of doing it in a personalized way, in like or the way that psychedelics are done in psychedelic facilitation. You don't just dose the masses, like, hey, go have an ego death experience on psychedelics. Bye, Um, a much greater concern for that assessment of the person and where they're at. If you're familiar with this term, like the direct path, I think people like Rupert Spira, they really want to like evangelize this as being what the Western world is ready for, and making it into something where they really glorify the fact that there's no barriers to entry, that, cut out all this preparation and all of this, uh, making it secretive and esoteric. This can be something that anybody can do and have from their living room or what have you in an instant moment alone. Um, Whereas the very fact that they're removing some of those quote unquote barriers are actually removing safeguards that were there. And that to me is, of course, also very troubling.
The spearhead of all that is the other radical non-dualities, the radical non-duality speaker, because it's for them it's the English word for gleichgültig. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what state you're in, because it's all an illusion. It doesn't matter what you feel as a person, because it's all an illusion. You can cut off all of them, all of that. It's an illusion. You are that, the void, the oneness, whatever. So you don't have to work on your psychological problems. It's not necessary. Just cut it off, put it away. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
And I too try to take the direct path. And I went from Nisargadatta to UG Krishnamurti. Do you
That's
know him?
another one. Yeah. I do. Yeah.
And I would say he was often called the anti-guru.
Yeah.
Um, and I read a lot of him, and I think a lot of what I've read from him influenced my path. And I try to build out of that some kind of practice to find myself. Um, I must say, I was something in between two versions of myself. Um, one possibility was that I am a person, and that I have to find this person, this me, this whole me with all his with all my attributes. Or on the other hand, I am just nothing like the person. I'm just the oneness, the void. And I ultimately tried to find it. So um, I tried to work out some kind of practice. And I, I just went out for a walk and tried to draw a line from every object I saw to myself. To the point where I thought where myself would sit behind my eyes.
Mm.
But every time this line that I had tried to draw um, hit my brain, it jumped back to the object. And I tried it so often that at one point, um, I realized that there's no one, that there's just a void here in my head. And exactly in that moment, the void flooded itself from inside out into the whole universe. In that moment, I had this experience of my sense of being a person, of a self, a little self, just vanished. And there was just I am. And everything was me, and I was everything. And I mean everything. And it felt exactly like that. I was convinced it was clear, it was the truth. In
Yeah.
that moment, there was no question to ask, no answer to give. It was done. Everything was done. There was
Yeah.
nothing else to do. And um, many years afterwards, I understood that it was just me trying to protect myself from everything that was a threat to me, especially people. There has always been a lot of fear of people around me. So in that moment, and there were no others. Yeah, and there was no threat, no matter what anyone could do to me. Hmm.
Mm.
Slap me, stab me with a knife. Doesn't matter. It was all me. The substance of all being, of all doing, of all thinking, of all saying was just me. And it felt exactly like that.
Did it feel good?
It felt good. It felt good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a period of it feeling good
Yeah.
and making you invulnerable and
And I think it's important to say that everything I read before went into that experience or build it up. Everything I read about Suzanne, build it up. The very moment she experienced being the void and experienced the bliss in it, her words were in my head. So it was the same story. I
yeah.
I went through myself to get where I already was. Exactly
Mm.
what she wrote.
Yeah.
And so I think I trained my brain for years for this moment. It's got nothing to do with with some kind of real spiritual experience. It's just something in my brain, nothing more.
What would it be a real spiritual experience to you? Just trying to understand what you're saying. Do you mean that these are all these sort of different ways of perceiving that a human can experience, but they don't reflect the ultimate truth of reality or something called ultimate truth?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I would agree with that at this point, that what's being called the ultimate truth of reality is indeed one type of experience you can have, or one way of perceiving that can be good or bad, but it being uh, presented as the final truth of reality. And that's all reality is, seems to you and to me at this point, just really misguided.
And if someone wants to live in this experience forever, it's okay. That's no problem. The problem is to say that it's the truth and to say that it's something that's for everyone.
That everyone should want this, right? Or
Yes,
that it's the ultimate well-being.
yes, and that I am now the person to teach someone, and you have to do it likewise, and then you can have it too. Um, and for years from that moment on, I thought to myself, why I had to go back? Why I had to go back to this normal state of being a having fears, and everything like that. I just thought, I want to go back. I want to go back into this bliss and um, don't have to do anything more. I for years I wanted to go back to that. I tried.
You
I
wanted
tried.
to
Yeah,
stay.
yeah. I wanted to state again, and I tried everything to go back into this oneness, into the void again, to be everything again. But it never happened again. And now I'm glad that that it never came back. And for me, that's what I'm trying to do is to yeah stabilize myself as a human being in the world with a body and trying to defeat my depersonalization to really come back into life. That's what I want to do, and I think it's and I want to talk about my experience and say to everyone who wants to hear this that it's a threat. What is going on with non-duality, and that it's not the ultimate truth. That's what I want to say. That's what I want to do. Because there are always people. For example, now after the last video of Cici and me, um, it's always that there are some persons flying by and leave comments. And the last comment I read was that someone said that depersonalization would be something that's near the truth. Something similar to that what Maduka said to me. It's just like half sleep, and you
Yeah.
ultimately have to wake up. And I think that's a threat. And
Yeah.
and this is something I want to stop. What I clearly want to, where I clearly want to say, this has to stop. And I want to yeah, say to the to all these people that want to hear it, be careful.
And are you saying don't listen to the, YouTube videos on how to get rid of your sense of self? Or are you saying don't listen to it when you're going through extreme, um, harmful experiences from engaging with these teachings and then they tell you you need to keep going? Or are you saying both? I imagine to
Both,
be careful with both.
both,
Yeah.
because
Well,
it's my opinion that we all have to always have to go through some hard times or suffer from severe um, anxiety and such. And I think it's the right way to work with it, to find a good therapist, to ultimately find our real selves as a person, not to cut off yourself, cut everything off that has to do with the person, all your feelings, all your thoughts. That's just rubbish. Just flush it away through the toilet. It's also attractive to feel like that, to really
oh,
feel like that nothing can harm you anymore, that there's nothing to fear anymore, because it's you, because everything is the sea sand, and I am the sea sand. Everything is the sand, and everything is made of it. Every thought, everything you can take, every
yeah. So
action.
there's no real threat to you in a
Yeah,
way.
you are the sand. So if the knife is the sand, how can it ever hurt you? It isn't possible anymore.
Right. And you were also saying that extreme disassociative pointers can help in the instant relief factor, and they're very attractive for that reason.
And besides being attractive, when I look at myself and at this moment when I wiped out everything, I can just say that this is has got nothing to do with the truth. I think it's some kind of narcissistic defense. As I feared people, so this way I had the possibility to wipe them all out. And this was some kind of superpower for me to say they not exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's something that uh, that has to be addressed by a therapist if you experience something like that, because every you said it too, every possibility to relate to people, to build relationships, isn't possible anymore because there is nobody else.
A lot of people experience solipsism tied to derealization. It's harrowing, and it can slip between that, oh, it feels great and liberating that it's all a projection of my mind, right? There can be ways that feels freeing, but for so many people, naturally that can slip into solipsism, which is terrifying. And the most empty, lonely feeling in the world is, imagine waking up one day and you realize that you were the only person in the world. There's a kind of like a twilight zone factor to that. And when you do hear from people, and I'm sure you hear from them, and that Cece gets it in her comments, that so many people are relating to what we're saying. And when they talk about the harmful effect, it's often that derealization, solipsism, understandably. And then the non relationality is just, to me, tragic, especially when this is about non separateness and feeling less separate, and then radically isolated and relationally handicapped.
And again, this is not what everyone experiences, but a highly significant amount of people are, which makes it extremely important to bring attention to. And this being a natural inherent consequence of actual shifts from these pointers that, like we're saying, often really are a double-edged sword, which tends to be talked about even by those who are promoting these shifts.
So
Yeah.
my goal is yeah is really to defeat my depersonalization. I learned in the last days and the last time I talked to my therapist, the what I need to do is to relate to people, to make a step towards this border. It's not sufficient that someone else talks to me and gets to me and shows his feelings to me, but it's important that I do that. That I go to do the step in towards this border and try to feel again. And every time I get near this border, I experience some kind of increase of loudness. Everything is louder. It's way more 3D instead of in comparison to what I experience every day. And it feels way more lively.
Yeah.
So to step towards this border, not backwards, and get
Yeah.
nearer into me and to the singularity of consciousness. That doesn't help.
Right.
It seems to help because I have no fear anymore. I've got nothing to do anymore. No questions to ask. No answers to give. Nothing to go. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do anymore. It's over. So that's simple.
So what has been helpful for you? You were saying, could you say a little bit more about this, where you were saying what's helped is to go forward out into the world or come forward and make connections?
That's very difficult for me to really feel what I what's need to be felt to be in life again. And I think what's very important for someone like me with this chronicle depersonalization is to really be me, to really show who I am and what I want and what I don't want, and to be very clear. And it's especially for someone like me, it's very important to be real, to be clear. And every time I say yes when I in reality wanted to say no, it's a step back. And
Yes.
I mustn't do that anymore. And I think I have to be way more clearer than anyone else for me to get out
Yeah.
and it
And
goes
boundaries, I'm saying too.
yeah, and it goes way further. I It's extremely important for me to free this little boy in me.
Yeah. The inner child.
Yeah, to let him get out and express himself in the way he really is. To be there's some kind of anxiety in me to show this little inner child while being a man.
Yeah. I can
This
understand
is
that for
something
sure.
very problematic for me. And to show that there are needs, that there are feelings that I want to show, that I want to be addressed by other people.
To be all the things that those teachings.
Says are bad, to receive validation for, yes, you exist and you matter and your perspectives matter.
Yeah.
So I fully understand the healing of that.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this conversation.